5 seconds. Sir, in the first place, I would like to say that this is an amendment to a rule and it is not necessary for it to go to a select committee, but it has been criticized very much. At the same time, I am thankful to the two honorable members who said that if anybody was making money, it was the busman and that he must be taxed without any increase in the bus fare. But there is another view expressed that this tax will be a great burden on the transport industry. So we are having different opinions expressed in the matter, and I am sure the select committee will go into these details. There are also many other details which have to be considered in the select committee. For instance, the corporation of Chennai is having lorries for doing convergency work. If this additional taxation is imposed on it, it will have to pay more. In the same way, there are several municipalities which are having lorries for this purpose, and it must be considered whether it is desirable to collect more amount from them. There are schools and hospitals which are having buses and ambulances, and it must be considered by the select committee whether they should also pay this additional taxation or not. Apart from that, I want to know whether the state government should come forward with any taxation measure in future. It looks as though members do not want any taxation measures, and whatever is done is opposed in the name of the poor man. I may ask whether the poor man is affected or whether it is really pleading for the rich man. We may now examine these three measures. One of them is a tax on cinema theaters. The second is a tax on coffee, hotels, and some commercial crops. And the last is a matter concerning the transport companies. The next tax is the advertisement tax. I am quite sure that once more, in that connection, the poor man will be brought into the picture. We know that theaters are flourishing and a large sum of money is being spent on the constructions of new theaters. In spite of this, if we impose a tax on them, immediately it is opposed in the name of the poor man, and it is said that we are responsible for his ruin. I may tell the honorable members that the poor man in the rural parts, who may be an agricultural laborer, does not go to the hotels. So there is no question of taxing him. If I tax the hotel keeper, then commercial crops give good returns, and when we tax them, the poor man is brought into the picture, and when we tax the transport companies, it is said that the same poor man will be affected. If we really take the case of the poor man, what is the amount that he will be spending for buses? It will be only half a percent of his income. Most of these people walk the distance, so it is not the poor man who is worried about it. We need not talk of the poor man every time we bring up a taxation proposal. I may tell the honorable members that these taxation proposals have been examined very carefully and that they have been before the country for the last 3 months. We do not see any tendency on the part of the operators to withdraw. On the other hand, there is a rush for permits. It is because they know that in spite of the additional taxation, they will make a decent profit. So it is not right to say that this tax will affect the industry. The question is whether passenger fares should be increased. It may be gone into very carefully. In this connection, I would like to point out that the cost of maintenance has gone up and that wages have increased. I do not want to go into this question and in details now, as we can discuss these matters and come to certain conclusions. Then the question was raised about the pleasure cars. So far as this tax is concerned, the original idea was that it should be levied on vehicles running for hire. As a matter of fact, we think that the owner of pleasure car is a rich man, but at the same time, it is not as if all of these people are rich. The idea was that it should be collected first from a number of people and finally it would be paid by the owner of the vehicle. That is why private cars were excluded in the original amendment of the rules. But if the select committee wants to levy a tax on private cars, that is a matter for it to decide. Then the question of transfer of buses was also raised. I may tell the House that we do not want to recognize it. We have issued necessary instructions in this regard. If the operators do not run the buses, they may surrender their permits so that they may be allotted to somebody else. Otherwise, I think it will be only a national wastage. So it is better to conserve our national assets for use in other directions. All other matters may be considered by the select committee.